take a look here. Activity 4.3, traveling methods. A company has an office in Austin, Texas, and an office in Copenhagen, Denmark. The company wants to know how employees get to work, so they take a survey of all the employees and summarize the results in the table. So with this table, we can see along that first column, it is based on their location, and the top row shows all their different methods of transportation for getting there. So let's jump in with A. If an employee is selected at random, what's the probability they work in Austin and drive a car to work? So we know that we're taking a look at all total employees. So our probability is going to be out of the total 1,103. We're looking for the intersection of people who work in Austin and drive a car. So I go across this Austin one and drive a car, and we can see my intersection is right there, 376. So that's 376 out of 1,103. To find the probability as a decimal or a fraction, or excuse me, decimal or percentage, just divide the top by the bottom. Okay, let me get this stuff out of the way. Let's take a look at the next one. With the next one, employee is selected at random. What's the probability they work in Copenhagen and ride a bike? So again, we're out of 1,103, but now we're looking Copenhagen and ride a bike, and we can see that that intersection is right there. That's 267. So we've got 267 out of 1,103. Go back, get out my eraser, clean this up. Take a look at the third one here. If an employee is selected at random, what's the probability they take public transit to work? Now, in this case, it doesn't matter their location. So we're still out of our total employees, 1,103. And all we're looking for is if they take public transit to work. So we go down to our total for public transit, and that's 220 up top. Divide those two to find your overall probability. Get that circle out of the way. Okay, so now we get a little bit tougher here because we're shrinking the subset of what we're looking at. We're not looking at all employees anymore. If an employee from Copenhagen is selected at random, okay, so let's start there. They have to be from Copenhagen, so that means we're looking at our total. We're no longer out of 1,103, we're out of 477 because we're only looking at Copenhagen employees. What's the probability they ride a bike to work? So it has to be out of these folks here. How many of these folks ride a bike? Well, we can see that that's back to the 267 we had before, so that's 267 out of 477. Take a look at the next one. Get this out of the way. All right, if an employee takes public transit to work. So again, we're shrinking our subset of what we're looking at here. It's only the people who take public transit. So that total is out of 220. The question is, what is the probability they work in Austin? So my Austin people who take public transit, that's 125. So we take 125 divided by 220. That'll get you your probability. Last question, F. How are the last two questions different from the first three? So hopefully you guys have noticed the difference here, but the first three questions were all out of all total employees. And for D and E, they shrank the subset of people that we were looking at. We weren't looking at all employees. We were simply looking at people from Copenhagen in the part D and people who take public transit for E. So we just shrank the subset of people we were looking at. Hopefully that helped.